Today we're going to be talking about identity theft and fraud, right? How to protect yourself. We've got about 20 minutes. My name is Julie Vitak. I'm with Wells Fargo. Because we have a partnership with the laborers for your pension, right? We provide some free and complimentary services to all members and families, laborers, etc. So today we're going to go through some of that. You're going to have a couple handouts in front of you. The first handout I want you to try and pick up is going to help us with today. That talks about some of the talking points we're going to go over. So this is your takeaway to take with you today. It's a resource that you can use. There's some great websites on the back page, but it'll also model some of the points that I'm going to speak to. So, that being said, how many people in here know someone who was a victim of identity theft? Anyone? Okay. How many people in here have a social media or a social network page? Facebook, Twitter, right? Okay. How many people have a teenager that has that? All right. Now, how many people in here still put their mail in their mailbox when they pay their bills and put the little flag up? All right. All right. So some of those points we're going to talk about today, because identity theft and identity fraud are two different things, but they are a huge prevalent problem right now, right, given the economy. People get desperate, so they look for other avenues, right? Maybe they've had credit issues, maybe they've got financial troubles. We know from a banking industry, we see bank robberies go up, right? But then you see a huge lift in identity theft and fraud. And the reason for that is a lot harder, right, to go after somebody with a gun and physical violence, right? Penalties are more severe than someone who wants to sit in their home, fish on the internet, find other ways to kind of come at you for some type of identity theft or fraud. So what we're going to try and do today is go through a couple goals and some different things, right, that you can do to try and protect yourself. There are about 10 million cases of identity theft every year, right? When you look at the Federal Trade Commission, that's where some of those numbers come from. And most of your identity theft, over 50%, comes from somebody that we know, that we've had contact with. Whether it be a coworker, family, friend, whatever, right? So today we're going to raise awareness on exactly how personal information can be stolen. We're going to learn how they work and operate, and you'll be surprised around some of this. Some of it you'll be like, okay, I knew that, right? What you can do to kind of develop a plan to help protect yourself, and then some steps to take if it does happen to you, right? If some of what we listed doesn't come to fruition, or it does come to fruition, you want to make sure you protect yourself. So, identity theft versus identity fraud. What's the difference? What's identity theft versus identity fraud? Anyone want to take a shot? All right. Identity theft means someone maybe steals a credit card, right? They steal your name from a credit card, or they try and, it's a one-off instance where they try and steal a piece of some money from you or a credit card from you, right? Identity fraud is actually what they say, what it says. Someone fraudulently creates an identity in your name. I actually had, I've been in the banking industry for a little while with Wells Fargo, right? And Wachovia. They actually set up a truck loan. And they came to Wachovia, they went to the dealership, the guy bought a truck, he had 2 forms of ID, he had a house address, he had a social security statement, right? He had all this information, bought a truck. Well, we noticed on our end, we catch this payment coming through and the signature is off, right, on the check that he used to make his car loan payment. So we call the car dealership and we call the customer. And the customer says, I didn't buy a truck. What do you mean you didn't buy a truck? We have a truck in your name. We have all these things, right? The dealerships, yeah, we met with the guy. We met him face to face. We grab our customer. We take him down to the dealership. He says, John comes out. We say, John, we've got Mr. Smith here. And John says, hey, that's not Mr. Smith. I don't know him. That's not the guy that bought the truck from me. Right? That's how prevalent it can be. Right? That is identity fraud. Right? Come on in. Join us. Right? So that's the difference. Identity theft is them stealing one piece of material. Identity fraud is really them taking over your identity. And things hitting your credit report and things of that nature. All right? So in the next piece, right, Anybody ever participate in the Great Shredder event? Do we hear it on TV, right? Great Shredder event, you go, right? So the Shredder event is designed to fight off the dumpster diving. And if you look at the hand that I gave you, right? Common ways ID theft happens, right? Dumpster diving, they will take, if I live in a condo association, right? So I take all my trash, we walk it down to a big dumpster and we throw it in, right? They'll dumpster dive, literally where it came from. But I asked you guys how many people put in the mailbox and put the little flag up. You put the flag up, right? And it says, oh, my bill's in here that I want to pay. My Netflix is in here that I want to send back. On my check, I'll even be so helpful. I'll write down the account number for you, right? Now they have your address. Now they have an account number. They will wait for you to go to work. They will see that the flag is up. They will drive by and they will take it out of your mailbox, right? So let's try not to be that helpful, right? Let's try not to send it. You can talk to your mailman, catch him on the weekend, her on the weekend, and say, hey, I'm not going to put the flag up, but I may put my bills out in there. I would recommend you get online statements, online pieces like that for the majority of your stuff, and then use a post office for your mailing, or use your work mailing, right? So those are one things, the dumpster dive, the mailing, the phishing scams. How many of you have gotten like online banking and other pieces, pay statements online, right? Or even shop online. If you have an eBay or a PayPal type of account, highly recommend you use a second account for that. Do not use your primary checking account, right? Your primary checking is where you're paying all your bills from. The PayPal account, a little different, right? Now, some of those providers within a PayPal, like an Amazon or something like that, people will actually redistribute that email address. Maybe they swap a number and they create the same URL. They'll send you, there's two things. There's phishing, which is you'll get an email from your bank, supposedly from your bank or some vendor that says, hey, give me your, we noticed your card was being here, we noticed this, we noticed that. Send us your account number right away, we want to verify. No bank should ask you for your account number via email, right? If you get a call, someone calls you and wants to talk to you, right? I'll tell you what, let me have the 800 number, I'll call you back. I'm going to take the, if I call the 800 number on the back of my card, is there a way that I can get to you directly? Hey, if it looks funny, smells funny, you're being asked something, don't do it online. Turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to call the bank. Did you guys send me an email? And see what someone says, right? And that will head off. That's all some of the phishing scams. On the farming scams, they'll actually hack into your computer, and it's farming with a PH, right? They'll actually, because they're farming fake internets, right? They'll create a web page that looks exactly like the web page that you think. And it'll ask you to click on this link, and then when you highlight the link, it has a completely different website than the one that you thought you were linking into. So you want to be, the more technology we bring, the more exposed, right? There's good and there's bad. People will say, well, is online banking secure, right? I'm going to tell you online banking is more secure than you sending in your PICO bill to someone at the PSE&G or PICO. That person could be offered 50 grand for 2,000 names. Take your address, your account number, your routing number, everything is on your check. When you send it electronically, right, no one's seeing it. It's hitting one computer screen to another. Yeah, you're pushing a button, but you're giving your bank, right? How many people pay bills online? Okay, so can I ask you a personal question? You don't have to answer, choose not to. Do you have your bank send the payment, or do you call AT&T and say you can go ahead and tap into my account?
They go into my account.
Right. I'm going to ask you to switch it. I'm going to ask you to give control to your bank. Like when I pay my mortgage, I go into my bank account, I click my company, and I send it. As soon as if I were to call AT&T and say, yeah, I want you to go ahead and tap my account, you can pull it out every month. I have now given a third party authorization into my account. See the difference? Right? If I control it from my bank's end and I set up my online banking piece, I'm controlling it. I can turn it off and on when I want, right? and I can control the payment. I'm not giving another provider access to my account. You have a question, you're looking at me kind of funny.
How do you do that? You just go into your accounts online and
instead
of going to the AT&T site, and when they say pay from checking and you put in routing.
Yeah, you can go in.
Go to the AT&T, I go to the bank site.
Yeah, your bank's website, when you go into your, and I'll speak to how our bank works, right? But most banks work that way. When you go to set up in your online payments, it'll have preferred providers, and it'll give you it'll say AT&T Cherry Hill, New Jersey, AT&T Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right? And you can pick your provider, and that'll automatically set it. Now, you'll have to type in your AT&T account. But with that, you still are keeping control at your level, as opposed to calling AT&T, because how many people have been double tapped by AT&T, Comcast, somebody, right? Oh, I didn't realize we already collected from you. Oh, we hit it twice, or they hit the wrong dollar amount. Here, you get to go and take an actionable step and verify and send, right? So just something to think about on the bill pay piece. And then the other piece, so just to recap, because we kind of answered, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, right? We have dumpster diving, we have phishing, right, where they'll send you emails, we have farming where they'll actually fake a website, we have some of the skimming. How many people are from the general area familiar with King of Prussia Mall, right? They have a ton of restaurants there. There was a skimming incident where, and what that is, you've heard about all the gas stations where they put on the fake front and you would swipe your debit card to pay for gas and people were capturing information. They put a false front on ATMs. Same thing, same technology is a skimmer. This waitress had a skimmer in her apron. So you would, typical, right? And I have a friend in Wells Fargo who works in our loss fraud department. She will not let her credit card out of her site after this story, right? Literally, you give the waitress your credit card. She goes over, she comes to a machine, she scans it, she brings you back the bill and you sign off on it. She was putting it in her pocket, skimming the information through this electronic reader that this fraud firm gave her, right? This fraud organization. She would skim it, charge you your bill. 6 months later, there's a new credit card in your name opened up in Ohio. Happened to a number of clients. American Express, Wachovia, then Wachovia, now Wells Fargo, tracked similar transactions to that restaurant and found out who was doing it. But they were literally giving her an annual income to capture names and establish identities. That is called skimming. So you want to make sure if someone's walking around with your credit card, well, where's that going? What are we doing, right? Those say, oh, well, the machine's broken. I have to take a carbon copy, right? They run it through that old like scanner. Take the carbon with you. Don't leave the carbon behind, right? Because that has all your information on it. And then the old-fashioned is they just steal your information, right? Some of the web connections, what they'll do. Anybody ever Google themselves? Right? Something come up on you, right? Well, they slowly build the case. Let me get a little piece of information here. Let me get a little piece of information here. And a lot of times this is done because people are desperate, right? So, but they'll sit and build until because they have no credit left, right? So I need credit. If I'm going to try and get a credit card, if I want to get a loan, if I want to get a driver's license, I need different forms of ID, right? So you may see that happen. So just be aware of some of that, right? Heightened alert. We talked about the fraudulent emails. I'm just catching up on my notes because I went on one or two tangents. So, right? We talked about all those. Then you have some of the lottery scams that are out there, job scams that are out there. Some of the, Craigslist pieces for eBay. You want to go buy something. Okay, well, it's $750. Well, they send you a check for $1,000. Can you do me a favor? I overpaid you by $250. Can you send that back to me? You go to send back the $250. You find out the $1,000 check, by the time it clears your bank, isn't real, right? They'll send a lottery. Say maybe you traveled. You put out on Facebook, hey, we went over to Europe and we did this. Or we went to Maine and we did this. Next thing you know, oh, you won the Maine lottery. We're going to send you $2,000, but you have to pay us back taxes. So after you cash that, go ahead and send us the tax piece, right? You'll get people, especially for senior citizens that are home during the day by themselves, you'll get people calling them, start to build a rapport, talk to them on a weekly basis, capture information, right? They're home. Maybe they don't have anybody to talk to, whatever it may be. They're a higher threshold, right? A higher target audience. And then the next group are your teenagers. I asked that question in the very beginning. How many people have a Facebook page where their kids will say, hey, we're going down the shore for the weekend? Yeah. Right? Let's put up a big billboard, no one's home for the week. Right? Yeah, you want to be cognizant of what you're putting out there. There are way too many ways, right? Forget about the social atmosphere of it, but don't communicate personal stuff around your neighborhood, your address, through the social network. And it puts your email address out there. That's all they need, right? I can send you, how do I send you a phishing email? I get your email address, right? If you're buying stuff online, close out, log out of the site, and move forward. Right? Make sure you shut down your browser and pull it back up again. If you're shopping online, you buy something, it's fine, right? Wells Fargo, your other big companies, right? They pay a lot of money for security on their online systems. But you still want to log off, because how protected is your system, right? So you want to make sure you shut everything down, take everything out, clear out the history, and then go back on. Right? So you don't leave it sitting out there. People are desperate for jobs. They're out of work. Here's a check. Here's $500. Let me go cash it, see if it works. Right? And if you have a healthy balance in your account, right, we'll always give you leadway, right? Put the check in, give a couple days to clear, but we'll front you some of the money because you're a good customer, right? All of a sudden, we realize that's a third-party check or whatever. It may not be working. So what are the implications, right, for you around your credit? Someone gets a hold of it, one of the clear ways to kind of know how am I a victim of identity theft is to really check your credit score. You don't have to get your score, but you want to get your credit report. How many have seen the guy on TV strumming the guitar, you know, freecreditreport.com, right? He's got his posse, he has to buy the used car because things didn't work, right? Not free. Listen to the commercial at the end that says free, you know, with enrollment in or as an option of, right? You can go to www.annualcreditreport.com. I gave it in your thing. Get a free copy of your report. If there is a false address on there, someplace that you've never lived, right, you want to dispute that. If it says that you have a loan or a line of credit that you've never seen, you want to report that. That's not you. You want to dispute it, not me, right? So you want to look through some of that and make sure you're seeing what you know on your credit report is you, the balance, all of those things. You can get a credit report each year from each one. So there's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Make sure you pull those, right? And you can take a look and dispute. You want to make sure that they look the same. Don't pull all three at once. I pull mine daylight savings time and my birthday, right? So I know I get it 3 times a year, one from each company. Yeah.
Every time you pull your credit, isn't it taking your credit score down?
It takes it down a little. If you do it yourself, it may knock it down 1 or 2 points, right? 3, 5, 10. But then as soon as you don't do anything with it, it rebounds and comes right back up, right? And if you're going to do some lending, you know you want to do lending in the next 3 months, yeah, don't do it, right? But if you're not going to go borrow, there's no reason for anybody else to be pulling your credit, you want to monitor it on you. You can enroll in identity theft credit reporting, right? Where they pull it on a regular basis and let you know. On that packet I gave you, common ways that it happens, there's also a sheet, right, for credit card tips, how to avoid some different steps. Please make sure you take that handout, right? There are mail precautions for my group that puts their flag up, right? And then bank account security tips. So please take this handout. We provided that with you today. Thank you for coming into the session.